Hi everyone, Catherine here from Inky Finger Cat, back with Christmas in July, day 17, and today's theme is rocking around the Christmas tree. For those that don't know, Christmas in July is where I attempt to do a video for every single day with a different festive project. It's quite a big undertaking, and at the same time as doing this, I've also got a lot of design team work on at the moment, so my entire desk is filled with scraps. The reason I'm telling you that is because when I did my prep for Christmas in July, I put all my little things in projects and all the into projects, into folders. Let's get rid of that now. I did write myself a little note that said, use up scraps project. So well timed, because the whole desk is just full of scraps. So the die set that I picked out for rocking around the Christmas tree was this. Die set from Spellbinders, which has got that cute little tree, quite a small one. And then, as I say, I wrote a little note saying, because sometimes I've gave myself like little inspiration ideas or what I was thinking when I picked that particular product out. And today's was use up scraps. So that's what I'm going to do. It's incredibly warm in here. I've got a very messy desk, so I need to do some tidying before I start. But for you, you don't need to see that. You're just going to see it when I start crafting in a minute. So thank you so much for everybody who watches my videos, leaves me comments. I love the comments, so please do leave me a comment. Gives it a little thumbs up because that helps me and YouTube know that you like it, and then you'll get similar stuff on your feed. I believe that's how it works. And obviously for those who aren't subscribed and you want to see more projects, I do Christmas cards a lot, especially in July. But I also do scrapbooking, I do other kinds of card making. I've done mixed media in the past, I do technique videos, I do haul shares, all sorts of stuff going on my channel. So please do consider subscribing. Okay, I'm going to tidy up and then let's get crafting. So, whilst you watch what I did, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I would normally do. If I'm having a session where I'm normally doing scraps, I usually tip out the pile of scraps and sort them out first. So I sort them out into size piles, so things that would make big enough to be card fronts or panels from card fronts, things that are smaller. Apologies if you can hear traffic going past. Somebody's got very loud music on. The windows are all open because I am beyond hot. Anyway, apologies. So normally I would tip out the box or the bag of scraps or the pouch of scraps or whatever, sort them out first. I would normally put speciality cardstocks in one place. I would normally put like-sized panels together. And that's how I would normally organise things first. And then when I've got those sorted, I would then probably do my die cutting. Now, we're in the middle of Christmas in July. I'm in the middle of 6,000 projects. I don't have time to do that. So that is not what I actually did today. Instead, you'll see I've got a little puddle of scraps that's on my desk there, none of which I decide I really want to use. So I use a few bits, but not very many. Instead, I spend a bit of time sort of digging through the pouch, trying to find pieces that I could use. And I didn't really have an exact end product in mind. As in, I didn't think through colour schemes. All I did was I grabbed that sparkly gold for the stars, and then I started grabbing foiled cardstock. And then in the end, I use a mixture of foiled cardstock, solid purple cardstock, which was a bit random, some glittery silver, and the glittery gold. And I just had fun die cutting. I say fun, it's too hot to die cut. It was like having a workout because I was so hot. Every time I had to use the die cutting machine, I was like, oh, I'm so hot. Anyway, you don't need to hear me whinge about the weather. So yeah, what ends up happening is I end up with a sort of slightly weird set of letters. What would also normally happen at this point, if I was doing this as a session, is I wouldn't even attempt to put anything together. I would literally just sit there. Once I've got my pile of size scraps I want to work with, I would just sit there and die cut and die cut and die cut, and then I would put them all in a pouch, and then I'd come back to them at a later point. That's how I normally do this. But when you're trying to do it for a video, when you've got 6,000 other things to do, I didn't end up doing it in that way. But that would be my tip. If you wanted to do a whole batch of cards, or you'll see I end up not just making cards, I do end up making a couple of tags. But if you wanted to do this, that's what I would suggest, is get all your panels that you're going to cut your solid tree out of. Do all of those. And then get all your panels of all your little bitty pieces that will be letter sized and do all of those. Or do a whole set in one colour, whole set in the next colour, whole set in the next colour, until you've got one of each of the colours that you want to use. And then you've got enough to make as many projects as you want that all coordinate. Instead, I've ended up with some slightly uncoordinated panels. But do you know what? I really like the end product. I don't dislike what I've made. I'm just saying it's not the most coordinated thing in the world. Okay, so this purple was a bit random, and I cut it not really for the letters themselves, although I do end up using some of the pieces, but I cut it so that I'd got a template. So this die, you do kind of, if you want to put them back in place, it's helpful to have the template. And I've just tacked the template with some of that Kingston Crafts tape runner. It is a permanent adhesive, but I only put tiny bits of it on, and therefore it works as a temporary adhesive, and it does pull up. Now you'll see that some of the pieces I'm having to glue, some of them are already self-adhesive because I used a mixture of different cardstocks here. Some of them are the adhesive panels that you can get where it's already, like, some of them are foiled with adhesive already attached to the back, so you just need to take the runner off. The runner off? The tape, the backing off? That's probably the better word. So it looks a bit weird whilst it's got the purple on there, but once you peel off the purple, look, a fun, different coloured letters, finishes type tree. And then I'm going to use that template again, and I'm going to do the same thing. So it is fairly repetitive at this stage, what you're doing, and I suppose the thing that for me was the more challenging thing was, which colour am I going to use? I'd also plonk them all into one tray. Again, if you were doing this as a mass-produced type thing, you might want to invest in a couple of trays or a couple of places to put them, and put all the different colours in one thing, or all the different letters in one thing, whereas I'm having to dig round. As I'm only making, in total, I end up with 4 trees, plus something else, I don't end up being bothered about that. It's fine. But it does mean that I'm doing a little bit of decision making, and I've talked before in videos that if you are bulk making, and that includes when you're using up your scraps and stuff like that, if you're on bulk making, you want to take the decision making processes out. You want to only decide once, because that's what takes time quite often, not the actual doing, the decision making. So by doing it this way, I'm having to make a decision every single time. Which letter am I? What colour am I? You know, all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, not a decision about the letters. The letters are what the letters are, otherwise they don't spell merry. But you know what I mean. So I end up with these 3 trees that I have cut. I do end up, again, going back, because I have no idea what my final product is going to be at this point. I'm still just sticking stuff down and I'm not really thinking through. And I, ambitiously thought I was going to film 2 videos today. I don't think my brain can do it, so I don't think my brain's going to do another video just yet. But at this point, I'm sort of like now pulling out the scraps of pattern paper. Is there any that I want to use? Because I'm thinking, well, my theme for today was scraps. So I pulled out this pattern paper and thought, well, that might work. So then I go and cut another tree out because I need another template, because my purple one had got all torn and I'd ended up cutting it and blah, blah, blah. So I cut this template out of white cardstock, which has given me some white letters, which will come in handy later on. I suppose that's the thing with these sorts of projects. It goes on and on. The more you cut, the more you end up with, so you can make multiple projects. And that's the reason why we've got multiple projects today. Again, ideally I would just do one, but because the whole purpose was about using scraps, I've ended up with multiple. Have I made a dent in those scraps? No, not even slightest. But, some have been used and some bits have now gone in the bin. In the bin. Not actually gone back into the scraps pile, so that's positive. Is it visibly different as a pile? No, of course not. I've used very little, but there you go. Right, so this one I ended up putting directly onto the pattern paper. Probably would have done it without the R and the ampersand at the end being the silver glittery, because I just don't think it stands up as well, and perhaps would have been better as solids. But as this was an afterthought and ends up being the first card I end up actually putting together, it's fine. So I've got a scrap of the pattern paper there, and now I'm going to go a bit mad and start adding in just random other patterns. I originally was looking for something sort of like a more solid red that would go behind that panel where the Mary is, but I don't end up doing that. I end up using vellum instead. And I've just pulled in those little strips of pattern paper that are all from different sets, different suppliers, etc. And I think it looks fab. Now, I do at this point decide to cut down my little panel. It's now exactly the size of an ATC. So for those people who make ATCs, they make brilliant card toppers. A few years ago, I did ATC's 365. So I did it every single day. I made an ATC. Now, I didn't make one every single day. I shared 365 in a whole year. Sometimes I'd make more than one in one go, etc. But I did do a load of Christmas cards that were ATC based. I don't think many of them made it on YouTube, but if there are, I'll see if I can find any and I'll pop the link in the description box below. It's just reminded me I've not made ATCs for ages, so maybe that's something I need to think about. Why am I giving myself more tasks? I don't know. Right, the other panels in the background there, I have just literally, the ones that were little strips, I've just trimmed them so that there's some angles. I've laid them up. As I say, it's not the most coordinated card in the world, but I quite like it. It's quite jolly. It's fun. Okay, on to my last use of the scraps, and that's for making the sentiments. And this, the rest of the sentiment is kind of this, it's like cuts out the word. It looks a little bit like those label makers where it embosses the tape. It's that kind of thing, but it cuts into it instead. And I just chose this green cardstock that, again, happened to be in my scraps box. So I'm making use of that, and I've just done the same colour for all of them to get the word bright, because the whole sentiment is that tree is merry and bright. That's how it works. Weirdly, it's also got wishes in the die set, but I don't think merry and wishes makes sense. Maybe that's just me. Maybe you're not going to put the ampersand in and you're going to put merry wishes. I don't know. Just seems like a weird one. For all of them, apart from the one that went on that first card, I am putting them onto white cardstock because I want that to be what you can, so you can see the word bright a little bit easier. On the one that I put straight onto the card blank, that was fine because I was going straight onto white card that was underneath. Perfectly fine. And then I decided that I would make a very different style of card to that first one with one of these trees. And no more scraps came into use for this particular card. But obviously I've got 3 trees there. The trees themselves have come together quite quickly. And at first I was going to use that red cardstock, decided not to. Instead, I've got this white card blank and I am literally just going to give myself an inky base. And then I'm going to do some splatter. And I'm going to do splatter with both water. Oh, sorry. I realised I was going to pop this up onto foam adhesive, so I've added that first. And then I was going to stick it down and then thought, no, splatter. So I grabbed my fan brush, bit of the ink and some water. And then I also grabbed this Perfect Pearls in the blue, just a teensy bit, added to my inky watery mess. Gave it a splatter. Really didn't need to use the heat tool for very long because it was so warm, everything just dried really quickly. And then because I'd had it sitting for a little while and it gives me some wriggle room, I did use some glue on the foam adhesive just to make sure it's definitely going to stick. And then these two, I decided not to turn into cards and just to turn them into gift tags because, do you know what? It's perfect size to turn into a gift tag. So I've grabbed myself some baker's twine it's in a green colour, just because I thought it was a bit Christmassy. And I'm just going to tie those through the holes that I have punched in the middle of the star using my crocodile. Dead easy. Can you imagine if you sit there and you do, half an hour's die cutting of all of those letters and then make a whole load of the base tags and then just sit and glue? You do all of your tags for Christmas in no time at all, really, wouldn't you? So easy. Okay, I then went and took my photographs, which you'll see in a minute, and then I realised I hadn't done the inside of the card. I don't do anything to the one where I've just inked it. I did just keep that as it was. But the other one, where I've used the scraps, I thought, I've not done the inside of the card, and I really wanted to. That has been my thing this year, is trying to do the insides of cards and making them flow through, so something from the front appears on the middle. As I say, I only did it to the one, and I just added that scrap of the pattern paper that matched the front, added those white letters and just popped it on the inside. Did put it so it was coming down the side because it was too wide a panel to go across. Never even thought about that, otherwise I'd have done them vertically, but never mind, it's fine. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. It's very much about techniques rather than anything else, and about making sure you make use of your scraps. And obviously that die really is helpful because you've got all those little pieces that you can cut in different colours. I'm hoping my tips, even if my actual demonstration, are more helpful. Because as I say, this is not how I would normally do it. I'm only doing it like this because it was for a video. Please do subscribe if you want to see more. I know there is a technique time video somewhere in a playlist that's about using scraps, so go check that out. Till next time, bye bye.